Hi, this is Dave from Dad's Comic Book Collection. I've been collecting comics for over 46 years, and I want to take you through me turning my 14,000 piece comic book collection into a legacy for my family and my sons. So I hope you enjoy the journey because it's going to be a lot of fun. So, how did I get started? I started collecting comics when I was very, very young. I got first introduced to comics through an interesting story at a barber shop. I was down at a barber shop named Deke's, and Deke was the guy who was actually the barber. And I went in there with my mother when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and a gentleman had started to set up a comic book sales. He had a few long boxes and a lot of different issues there. He had some pretty interesting things I'd never seen before. I was used to comic books being Daffy Duck or Mickey Mouse or Popeye. I'd never seen a superhero comic book before. And he offered to give me one free. And so after I checked with my mom and she told me yes, he gave me a first issue, my first superhero comic book. And I was hooked. It was one of those things that just jumped out at me. I'd never seen anything like that before. I'd never seen that kind of artwork, and I'd never seen that kind of action within a comic book. And so it drew me in. And that first comic book is this one that's up on the stand here, Batman 237. So we're going to go through that comic a little bit later, but for right now, give you some more background on my collection and how I started this and what the purpose of this channel and these videos are. I am to a point where I've got over 14,000 comic books in my collection, and that spans over the 46 years that I've been collecting comic books. And as I look at the comic book collection, it's something that's very near and dear to me, and something that I've really enjoyed doing, and something that's been a big part of my life. And eventually that comic book collection is going to pass down to my two sons, and I want to make sure that when that time is, that they have the ability to do whatever they want with the comic book collection. If they want to continue it, that's great. If they want to liquefy it, to do something else with that, I'm fine with that as well. But as I started thinking about the collection, it's in a state right now that doesn't make that easy to do. And so what can I do at this point in time when I'm healthy and in good shape and still building the collection to provide turning that collection into a legacy for them and give them something that they can then take and do whatever they think is best for them in their life situation at that time. So as I started looking at it and thinking through it, my collection is all raw comics. I don't have a single graded or CGC or other grading service comic within my entire collection. And so it makes sense to me to start going through specific comics within my collection, ones that have importance to me and high value, and take them through a grading process so that at that point in time, we're locking in a value and a consistent starting place that the boys can take when they get to that point and use that grade and that value across the population and know what they can get for that comic. So what I want to do then is take you through this journey with me, to go through the collection, go through specific comics, take a look at the exterior and the interior of these comics, and then just go through the whole process for selecting and grading comics. So I think this will be fun. It's something I'm looking forward to, something I'm excited about, and I'm excited for all the watchers of this channel to go through this with me. I'm especially excited to have my sons go through this with me. So this is going to be something that we'll see where this takes us. I'm planning to go through multiple different comics of value. You can see some of the ones on the wall behind me. Excited about this like I am? Join me for this journey. We're going to go through a number of different comics, and we'll set up a periodic video and would love to get feedback from anybody on anything that they're seeing and any thoughts that they may have. And I guess I'm supposed to say like and subscribe. So if you can, like and subscribe. And we'll go through this together. So once again, I'm Dave from Dad's Comic Book Channel. Looking forward to going through this journey with you. With that being said, let's look at Batman 237. Love the red background. It just kind of makes all the characters kind of pop out. Also, in this time frame, one of my favorite shows to watch was Scooby-Doo. And the Grim Reaper kind of looked like a couple of the villains from the Scooby-Doo. So that was another thing that just really made me, drew me to it. It's a 25-cent comic in this time period. It's because it's 48 pages. So it's a double comic, so that's why the price was double than a normal comic. So this one was, like I said, my very first comic book. I like the self-sealed bags because that way you don't catch tape on the comics and take any potential of ripping the comic book itself. So, good starting point. You see Batman, you see the spike through his heart. This is a published date of December 71, so this would have been out probably in mid 1971. Once again, I was about 6 years old when this first was given to me, so just very, very exciting to see, once again, these kind of images. This page really caught me. You'd look at the motion across and following it. Also, the float in the back had not only the DC superheroes, or representations of them, but it has some of the Marvel ones as well, which is kind of cool. Neal Adams did the artwork, and Denny O'Neil did the story. But this was actually a story that was an idea from Berni Wrightson and Harlan Ellison. Really top notch. This one, this kind of splash page just really got me. This is obviously similar to the cover, except now you got a blue background versus the red. See, Robin falls out of frame, but then Batman comes. Once again, though, the images on the face, just the artwork is just something I'd never seen before. I mean, I'm used, like I said, at this point, I'm used to the Daffy Duck and the Popeye comics, and this is just something that's just totally in a different realm. Once again, a costume party where you see not only the DC heroes, but you see some representation of the Marvel heroes as well. And when I got this, I had no concept of any of these, so these were all just new images to me, and just really just made it pop for me. You see Batman coming down, the explosion, but then he pops out. And once again, just the action in this just really, really drew me in. So the story is about a survivor of the Holocaust who was exacting revenge on the people who perpetrated the Holocaust. And it's his kind of PTSD and grief associated with that. And as he sees, as he tries to escape, he sees the Star of David, which makes him realize that he's become a monster as well. And then he falls off the dam, and that's the end of the story. So that story was pretty heady stuff for a 6-year-old. I just didn't understand all the ins and outs of it and all the representations of it. I just knew that the comic book and the action and the movement in this was one that just really drew me in. So that's the primary story. That's the first story. And you see a Batman story from the 1940s, and this is by Bob Kane. It doesn't say which issue this is, which is unfortunate. I don't have that kind of resource to be able to go back and find it. But Batman, breaking up some crooks, and you can see the difference in the action. I mean, you still have motion, you still have movement, and things like that, but it's just not at the same level. The progression from these stories from the 40s to 30 years later in the 70s with the art that Denny O'Neil was doing was just leaps and bounds. But still, even in the 40s, considering this was the first set of superhero comics that would have come out, these would still been just exciting things for kids at that age to be looking at and to be enjoying. So you got to see how things moved from the 40s to the 70s, and just the ins and outs of what this comic book is. So this is one that I am going to get graded, one I am going to take in, because the first superhero comic book I ever received, and it's always had a special place for me.